The rain drummed steadily against the windows of Maple Corner Cafe, creating rivers of water that blurred the streetlights outside. Sarah wiped down the counter for the third time that evening, her movements slow and deliberate. The cafe was nearly empty, save for an elderly man reading his newspaper in the corner booth and the soft hum of the espresso machine keeping her company. At 23, Sarah had been working at the cafe for 2 years, ever since she dropped out of college. When her mother fell ill, the medical bills had piled up like autumn leaves, and someone had to keep the lights on. Her dreams of becoming a teacher felt as distant as the stars hidden behind tonight's storm clouds. The bell above the door chimed softly, and Sarah looked up to see a man and a little girl step inside, both soaked from the rain. The man shook, the water from his dark hair, his clothes clinging to his frame. He wore a simple denim shirt and jeans, both well-worn and faded. The little girl, no more than 5 or 6, clutched a small teddy bear to her chest. Her blonde curls were damp, and her pink dress was dotted with raindrops. "Welcome to Maple Corner," Sarah said with a warm smile, the kind that came naturally despite her own troubles. "Looks like you two got caught in the storm." The man nodded, his eyes scanning the menu board above the counter. There was something tired in his expression, a weight that seemed to press down on his shoulders. "Yes, we were just walking by when it started pouring." The little girl tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, I'm cold," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rain's rhythm. "I know, sweetie," he said, kneeling down to her level. "We'll get you something warm, okay?" Sarah watched the interaction, noting the gentle way he spoke to his daughter, the careful attention he gave to her comfort. She'd seen many families come through the cafe, but there was something special about the bond between this father and child. The man approached the counter, the little girl staying close beside him. "Could I get a hot chocolate for her, please?" he asked, his voice quiet but kind. "Of course," Sarah replied, already reaching for a mug. "And for you?" He hesitated, his hand moving to his pocket. Sarah caught the gesture she'd seen it countless times before, the unconscious check for money that might not be there. "Just the hot chocolate, thank you." As Sarah prepared the drink, she stole glances at the pair. The man had found a table near the window, lifting his daughter onto the chair. The little girl set her teddy bear on the table, arranging it carefully so it faced outward as if it were joining them for their visit. "Here you go," Sarah said, placing the steaming mug in front of the child. She'd added extra marshmallows and a small cookie on the side. Little extras that didn't cost much but meant everything to a child. The girl's eyes lit up. "Thank you," she said, her voice bright with genuine gratitude. "You're very welcome," Sarah replied, but she lingered by the table. Something about the man's earlier hesitation nagged at her. She'd been there, counting every dollar, making impossible choices between necessities. "Are you sure I can't get you anything?" she asked the man. "It's such a cold night." He shook his head, managing a small smile. "I'm fine, really. As long as Emma's warm, that's what matters." Emma, the name suited her perfectly. Sarah watched as the little girl carefully sipped her hot chocolate, her small hands wrapped around the mug for warmth. The man's eyes never left his daughter, and Sarah could see the love there, pure and unconditional. "You know what?" Sarah said suddenly, surprising herself with her boldness. "I was just about to make myself a coffee, and I always make too much. Would you mind helping me finish it? I hate to waste it." The man looked up, confusion flickering across his features. I don't want to impose." "You wouldn't be imposing at all," Sarah insisted, already moving toward the coffee machine. "I'm Sarah, by the way." "Marcus," he replied after a moment, "and this is Emma." Emma waved at Sarah over her hot chocolate, leaving a small marshmallow mustache on her upper lip. Sarah couldn't help but smile as she prepared the coffee. Making it exactly as she would for any paying customer, she returned to the table with the steaming mug, setting it down in front of Marcus. "There you go, it's a Colombian blend, one of my favorites." Marcus wrapped his hands around the mug, and Sarah noticed the way his shoulders relaxed slightly at the warmth. "Thank you," he said, and there was something deeper in those 2 words than simple gratitude. "Daddy, try it," Emma encouraged, and Marcus took a sip. The coffee was perfect, rich, and smooth, with just the right amount of warmth to chase away the evening's chill. As they sat there, Sarah found herself drawn into conversation with them. Emma told her about her teddy bear, whose name was Mr. Buttons, and how he was afraid of thunderstorms but brave when it came to protecting her from monsters under the bed. Marcus listened to his daughter with the patience of a saint, occasionally adding details or asking questions that made Emma giggle. "What do you do?" Sarah asked Marcus during a lull in Emma's animated storytelling. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I work in business," he said finally. "I travel quite a bit for work." It was a vague answer, but Sarah didn't press. She understood about privacy, about sometimes needing to keep parts of your life close to your chest. The rain began to ease, and eventually Marcus glanced at his watch. "We should probably head home," he said to Emma. "It's getting late." Emma nodded, though she looked reluctant to leave the cozy warmth of the cafe. She carefully climbed down from her chair, making sure Mr. Buttons was secure in her arms. Marcus stood and reached for his wallet, but Sarah quickly shook her head. "Don't worry about it," she said. "The hot chocolate and coffee are on the house." "I can't let you do that," Marcus protested. "You're not letting me do anything," Sarah replied with a smile. "I'm choosing to. Sometimes we all need a little kindness." Marcus looked at her for a long moment, and Sarah saw something shift in his expression, a recognition, perhaps, of the gift she was offering. Not just free drinks, but dignity, warmth, and human connection. "Thank you, Sarah," he said quietly. "This means more than you know." Emma approached Sarah and, without warning, wrapped her small arms around Sarah's waist in a tight hug. "Thank you for the marshmallows," she whispered. Sarah's heart melted. She knelt down to Emma's level, tucking a strand of the child's hair behind her ear. "You're very welcome, sweetheart. You take good care of Mr. Buttons, okay?" Emma nodded, solemnly, as if she'd been entrusted with the most important mission in the world. As they prepared to leave, Marcus turned back to Sarah. "I'd like to come back if that's okay. Maybe when the weather's better." "I'd like that," Sarah replied. "We're here every day." After they left, Sarah cleaned up their table, her mind still on the gentle father and his sweet daughter. She'd given them perhaps $5 worth of drinks, but their gratitude had been worth so much more. It reminded her why she'd wanted to become a teacher in the first place, the joy of giving, of making a difference in someone's day. 3 days later, Sarah was opening the cafe when she noticed a man in an expensive suit waiting outside. As she unlocked the door, she recognized him immediately, though he looked completely different. It was Marcus, but not the Marcus she'd met during the storm. This Marcus wore confidence like a second skin, and his presence commanded attention. "Sarah?" he said, and his voice was the same gentle tone she remembered. "Marcus?" she replied, confusion evident in her voice. "You look different." He smiled, and suddenly he was the same man who'd sat at her table 3 nights ago. "I wanted to thank you properly for the other night. What you did, the kindness you showed Emma and me, it meant everything." Sarah shook her head. "It was just coffee and hot chocolate." "No," Marcus said firmly. "It was so much more than that. You saw 2 people who needed warmth and kindness, and you gave it freely. You didn't ask questions or make assumptions. You just cared." He handed her an envelope. "I hope you'll accept this. It's not payment for the drinks. It's a thank you for reminding me that there are still good people in the world." Sarah opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note that read, "For your mother's medical bills and for your dreams of becoming a teacher. The world needs more people like you." Marcus and Emma, Sarah looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand. How did you know about my mother?" "How did you know I wanted to be a teacher?" Marcus smiled gently. "Emma is very perceptive. She asked me why you looked sad when you thought no one was watching. I did a little research and I found out about your situation. I also found out about your dreams. But why?" Sarah whispered. "Because kindness should be rewarded," Marcus said simply. "Because you gave without expecting anything in return." because you treated a stranger and his daughter with dignity and care, and because the world needs teachers like you. As Sarah stood there holding the check, she realized that sometimes miracles come disguised as ordinary moments. Sometimes they arrive on rainy nights, carried by strangers who remind us that kindness is never wasted, and that the smallest acts of love can change everything. The bell above the door chimed as Marcus left, but his final words lingered in the air. Thank you for showing Emma what real kindness looks like. She never forget it. And neither will I.